Welcome back to Hiroshima. In today's Golden Glory, we'll check in on the men's basketball final between Korea and China. We'll also take a look at how the men's football final between Uzbekistan and China played out. And for a change of pace, we'll take a trip to the handball stadium and find out about one of the fastest growing sports in the games. Stay with us. China came into the men's volleyball final reigning Asian Games champions. Japan was a bronze medalist in Beijing, but this time it was China's fans that were in the minority. However, it was the visitors who jumped out to a quick 11-5 lead. Japan was struggling with China's wall of blockers, and on this occasion, Zhang Xiang made them pay. Japan clawed their way back into the first game, pulling to within 3, and 1.96-meter Izumikawa added another with a strong hit. Japan was still down 12-14, but the momentum was swinging their way. Leading by as many as 7 in the first game, China was determined not to lose it, and Zhang Xiang once again provided the firepower. China wins the first game 15-12. In the second game, it was Japan who started quickly, but China kept their composure and were up 11-10 late in the set. Zhang Li-ming took a deep set on the wing, but got enough on it to secure the point. China were up by 2. Down 11-13, Japan was looking for a break, and they got it when Nakagaichi made a great save off the net. The set was impossibly deep, however, and China had no trouble keeping the ball alive. But the set was slightly behind Zhang, and his hit caught the net and sailed out of bounds. Both teams traded scores, which left China serving for the game. Izumikawa found himself handcuffed, and Zhang put China up 2-0. At one point in Game 3, Japan found themselves down 6-12, but once again they refused to give up. 2 straight scores reduced the deficit, and then Aoyama came up with a huge block. Japan was only down by 3. Japan made it 5 straight points when Zhang mishit badly, and now the China lead was 1. Japan finally tied the game at 13-all. Izumikawa, who had been coming up big all day, then gave Japan their first lead in the game, and the crowd loved it. The Chinese were right to be concerned. On the next serve, Minami got his 2-meter frame high off the ground and stuffed Lee Hai-yun's return to close out the game. In Game 4, the Chinese could do nothing right. Japan raced out to an 11-2 lead, and on the back of Izumikawa's outstanding play, increased their advantage to 10. With Izumikawa serving game point, the Chinese all but gave up. They failed to make any kind of return, and now the match was even at 2-2. International volleyball rules state that in Game 5, a point is awarded regardless of who's serving, and that the teams will switch ends when one side reaches 8 points. The receiving team has the obvious advantage, but Japan continued to win points on both sides of the serve. Japan had a 5-point advantage and the momentum, and even when China scored, Japan looked the more aggressive. At 10-5, Matsuda put the ball in play. The Japanese blockers got a piece of the ball, but it was Matsuda whose hustle kept the point alive. Nakagaichi got just enough on the return, and Japan were now firmly in control. China refused to die, and when Zhang Xiang emerged from behind his 2 decoys, the spike attempt went unopposed. China was back within 4. The teams again traded points, and Japan was now receiving to win the match. Nakagaichi put himself in perfect position, and when the set arrived, he got enough of it to secure the match and the gold medal for Japan. South Korea earned bronze with a win over Kazakhstan, but the day belonged to Japan. In women's football, China and Japan were facing off in a repeat of the 1990 Asian Games final. Japan was once again the underdog, as China was clearly the team to beat in the region. So it was no surprise when China got off to a quick start. A long ball was headed on beautifully by Sui, but she misfired from 25 meters, and the ball ended up safely in the arms of Ozawa. 2 minutes later, Ozawa returned the gift. A simple cross was mishandled, and China's Chen was perfectly positioned to tap in the easy header. China was up 1-0. Japan had plenty of opportunities in the match, the first from Kyoka's free kick. China's Zhong made a nice save, and on the ensuing corner, Japan was unlucky when Tomei's header landed just wide. China was quickly back on the attack. A beautiful 1-2 left Sui unmarked just outside the box. Ozawa was clearly beaten, but Sui's strike sailed just over the crossbar. Japan had another first-half opportunity when Sawa put in a lovely cross from the left, but Hagamine just missed with the flying header, and the Chinese defense was able to safely clear it. At the start of the second half, Japan almost gave one away. A terrible pass in defense gave Wei a long-range opportunity. Ozawa was slightly out of position but recovered in time. 8 minutes later, China's Sun came up with possession in midfield and fed teammate Zhao with a perfect through ball. Zhao skillfully dribbled around Ozawa and slotted it from the right side to put China up 2-0. China began to dominate possession. A perfectly timed run and pass left Sun with an open net, but instead of kicking it straight away, she opted for control, and the Japanese defense was able to recover. China had another great chance 5 minutes later, but Kyoka got her leg up in time, and the ball rolled fortuitously to Ozawa. Japan had one final chance 5 minutes from time. The Chinese defense appeared to have the play under control, but they failed to clear the header. The ball fell to Kyoka, who crossed to the far post, but Handa couldn't find the mark with her left foot. Soon after, time ran out in the match. China had repeated their feat of 1990, recapturing the Asian Games gold by a final score of 2-0. Chinese Taipei locked up the bronze medal with a win in the third-fourth place match. Perennial Asian handball powerhouse Korea had little trouble repeating their 1990 gold medal performance. But up-and-coming teams like China and Saudi Arabia show that they are making steady improvements. In one of the most exciting matches of the competition, the keepers for both countries were instrumental. With 30 seconds left in their match, however, the Saudis forced a turnover, quickly got the ball up court, and scored the tying goal in transition. But with literally seconds left in the game, Wang Xindong went high over the Saudi defense to score the winning goal and secure a bronze medal for China. Japan and China both finished with 2 wins and 2 losses, but Japan beat China head-to-head and took home the silver. Once again, the men's basketball gold medal game was between Korea and China. China had beaten the Philippines by 11 points in the semifinal, and Korea had an even easier time with Japan, winning 101-63. Korea looked intent on continuing their scoring spree when Hur-jae knocked down his first shot of the game. Kim Yu-tak was next for the Koreans, using a nice pump move inside to free himself up for the easy two. China struggled offensively early on. Sun Jun's running one-hander off the glass missed the mark, and the Koreans used the opportunity to run. China got back on the defensive end, but Korea eventually worked the ball to their young big man, So Jang-hoon. Here he spun away from defender Woo Nai-chun for another easy bucket. China finally got something going when point guard Adiljan hit from way out. The three-pointer cut Korea's lead to 1. Korea continued to work the ball inside, but a careless turnover by Jung Jae-kun allowed Hoo Wei-dong a free path to the basket. Korea needed a lift and got it when Hur-jae responded from beyond the arc, tying the game. Now it was China's turn to get the ball inside. Veteran center Shan Tao went left on So and hit the short turnaround. Kang Dong-hee was fortunate with a bad pass. Kim Yu-tak got a handle on it and dropped a nice pass to So, who had no trouble scoring over the smaller Woo. China was still trying to find its outside touch. Streaky shooting Hoo Wei-dong was off the mark, and once again Kang pushed it up court for Korea, finding Jung on the perimeter. Jung was in trouble, but calmly got it to So, and the big man buried the 12-footer to give Korea a 2-point lead. China was still having trouble from the outside. Korea's defense was denying them any open passing lanes, and when they did find a shot, it was usually off balance. Gong Xiaobin picked up Woo Ching-long's miss, and Woo Nai-chun was there for the putback. The previous offensive set seemed to revitalize China. Gong came up with a big defensive play on Moon's attempt. After patiently working their half-court offense, Hoo Wei-dong finally knocked one down from long range. A bad omen for Korea. The Korean coaching staff wisely called a timeout, hoping to stop the China run. But on their next possession, Hoo stepped up and buried another 3, this time from the perimeter. China was up by 9. Kang slowed down the tempo, realizing that they needed to regroup. But when the opportunity presented itself, he took the initiative, cutting the deficit to 8. Who was doing it all for China, if not shooting, then finding teammates like Woo Ching-long, who was also starting to pick up the pace. Kang remained the instigator for Korea. His dish found Jung, whose double pump fake got him open for an easy bucket and cut China's lead to 9. Nearing the end of the first half, China looked to run their offense, but Who had other ideas. Another shot, another 3, China by 12. But Korea answered with a quick hoop, and as time ran out in the half, Kang found Chun Hee-chul with a beautiful pass, and at the break it was China by 8. Korea cut the lead to 6 early in the second half, and then a great block by So started a Korea fast break that led to a Jung Jae-kun layup. Suddenly, it was a 4-point game. Korea had a chance to cut it further, but Adiljan tipped away the Kang pass. Gong scooped it up, and Woo buried it from beyond the arc. Gong followed up with a strong move inside. And then Woo hit again, lifting the lead back to 9. Kang was doing what he could to try to get Korea back in the game, but now the break seemed to be going China's way. Hoo Wei-dong eventually picked up the loose ball and hit Woo for another easy bucket. China would eventually go on a 41-18 run and blow the game open. By the end, nothing was falling for Korea. Woo Ching-long, however, was having a career day. China won it going away 100-72. In the bronze medal game, Japan erased a 6-point halftime deficit to defeat the Philippines 79-76. The water polo competition consisted of 6 teams playing a round-robin format, with the top 3 teams receiving medals. Kazakhstan came in as favorites and, as expected, had little trouble with a lineup that included Iran, Singapore, and South Korea. On the final day of competition, China and Japan battled for what turned out to be the silver medal. Both Japan and China had dropped their games with Kazakhstan by 3 goals apiece, so the matchup was an interesting one. In the second quarter, China, playing in blue, was leading 2-1 when they worked the ball into the hole, and after scrambling to retain possession, fired past the goalie to up their lead to 3-1. Japan held China in check for the rest of the quarter, and in the second half narrowed the gap to 1 after China was called for a series of fouls. The Chinese defenders were crawling all over their opponents, but Japan finally got hold of solid possession and fired from well out on the right-hand perimeter for their second goal. China's lead was cut to 1. With the crowd cheering Japan's every attempt, China sought to quiet them down and did so with a quick response. They were now resting comfortably on a 2-goal advantage. Japan once again patiently worked the ball inside, forcing the Chinese defenders to foul. Japan finally caught the defense off guard and found the net with a shot from point-blank range. They were quickly back within a goal. China then followed suit, working a 3rd straight foul on Japan's main defender, reducing them to 6 men. On the ensuing attempt, China scored from well out in front of the goal to seal the game and the silver medal. The final score was China 8, Japan 5, but the tournament belonged to Kazakhstan. The men's football final was an unexpected meeting between China and Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan was participating in its first ever Asian Games and had rolled through the qualifying stages with wins over Saudi Arabia and Korea on their way to the final. China had impressive wins over the Saudis and Kuwait, but was immediately on the back foot at the start of the gold medal game. In the 4th minute, Uzbekistan had its second scoring chance of the match, and Shakurin made no mistake. He shot from a tight angle, but beat China's Oh Chu-liang near post to give the Uzbekistanis an early lead. Chinese defender Xu Hong was wrong-footed by Davletov's touch, and Shakurin did the rest. China had hardly caught its breath when in the 9th minute, Shakurin again went close. This time his teammate Lebedev was there for the rebound, and he safely headed home. The keeper got to Shakurin's strike, but the rebound came off the post, and Lebedev scored easily. In the 19th minute, China finally got an opportunity. A beautiful chip in the box was taken by Hu Jijun, but his strike ricocheted high off the crossbar. In the ensuing scramble, China's Li Bing beat 2 defenders, and Hu was on hand for the finish. Li made a great move to get through, and Hu was there to strike it into the net. 7 minutes later, Li was in for another chance, but his went straight into the hands of Yuri Shakin. Just before halftime, Uzbekistan threatened again when Fedorov got a nice cross into an unmarked Kozumov. But his left-footed effort was weak, and Uzbekistan settled for a 2-1 lead at the break. Early in the second half, substitute Li Ming charged into Abduraimov, who was awarded a penalty for the silly foul. Fan Ji-yi had to be wondering what Li was thinking, but it was Oh who was left with the unenviable task of trying to stop Abduraimov. He failed. Abdurrahimov slotted the penalty, and Uzbekistan led 3-1. Less than 4 minutes later, China came roaring back. Peng Wei-guo put Li Ming through, and after going close 3 times, Li finally found the net. Peng's pass was perfect, and Li's left-footed flick left Shaken no chance. Uzbekistan once again went close. This time it was Lebedev from a free kick. Oh did well going to his left, knocking the attempt wide. Gao Feng came on for China and immediately went to work. His through ball put Hu into space, and China's first goal scorer sent a beautiful cross into the box. Uzbekistani defender Durmanov got to the ball first, and Li Bing could only lament his bad luck. 5 minutes later, Uzbekistan sealed the match when Shakurin got behind the defense and centered to Maksudov, who put the match out of reach. The ball was played perfectly to Shakurin, and Maksudov, who'd come on earlier as a sub, was right on target. So Uzbekistan, in their first Asian Cup appearance, went home with the gold. South Korea beat Kuwait in the bronze medal match to finish third. The women's volleyball final was a rematch of the 1990 Asian Games Championship between Korea and China. In Game 1, Korea started off sluggishly, and Su Huijuan made them pay. But Park's strong serving got Korea back into the game. A bad set by Su gave the Koreans an opportunity to even the match, and Chung left no doubt. Lee Do-hee set Chung up beautifully, and the game was tied. Korea's serving continued to bail them out of sticky situations. China was having trouble getting a solid first hit, and this left their setter in a tough spot. Unable to get the hitters good ball, China struggled to finish off rallies. On this point, Hong Ji-yo dropped a shot just over the heads of the blockers, and China couldn't recover in time. It was China's blocking that got them a 2-point lead late in the first game, and it was Sun Yue's block that helped them seal it. Korea regrouped and took the next 2 games 15-7 and 15-13. But in Game 4, China went back to the solid blocking and strong hitting style that helped win Game 1. Down 1-4, Korea was frantically working to keep the ball alive. They had been out-hustling China most of the match, and their efforts in Game 4 were rewarded with 3 straight points, the last on Chung's cross-court kill. China answered with 7 straight points of their own. Sun Yue came up with a brilliant save off the net, and Su left no doubt about the finish. Down at one point 11-4, Korea continued to battle. They were getting more help from their blockers, and Hong Ji-yo's lob was one in a string of scores that cut China's lead to 3. As they had done in Game 1, the Chinese women kept their composure, and an incredible dig at the back gave Sun Yue an opportunity to close out Game 4 for China. With Game 5 rules in effect, the pressure was on both teams to score on serve. Korea got it done early, jumping out to an 8-5 lead, but China was the first team to reach 15. At 14 all, the Koreans had a chance to take the lead, but Hong's hit sailed wide. The teams traded points until at 19 all, Korea finally broke through on their own serve. This time it was China's turn to miss, just long, and now Korea had a chance to win the match. With the gold medal riding on the outcome, Chang put the ball in play. The Korean blockers did well to get a piece of the return, but it was Chang who miraculously saved the point. Chung then got 2 opportunities to win it for Korea. The second time, she tapped the ball into open space and China was caught out. Korea won it in the 5th game, 21-19. As they'd done in 1990, Japan won the bronze. Be sure to join us next time when we return to Hiroshima for a final look at the 1994 Asian Games on Gold and Glory.